we'll start.
All right, let's give it a try.
Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuel. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, the other day, the American Conservative published a very interesting article by an excellent writer, and many of our listeners probably are familiar with him, James Bovard. He's a libertarian of long standing and is always has taken very strong libertarian positions on governmental power. This article is twofold. He outlines the manifold abuses of governmental powers that are regularly conducted by the FBI and the CIA. We know about what they did to Donald Trump in 2016 when they spied on his campaign. We know about how they conducted an operation essentially to bring him down once he was elected president. We know all about the abuses of FISA, the FBI. We also know about the lies told by the CIA. They're shipping arms to Al Qaeda. We just take these things for granted. I mean, it's still a shocking to think that this is something that the US government does. It sends deadly weapons into the hands of the worst, most horrible people in the world. So that's one part of the article. The other part is perhaps surprising and kind of shocking, is that our judiciary, our courts, which is supposed to be an independent branch of the US government, is supposed to oversee abuses of power by the executive, all too often goes along with secrecy. So the CIA can come along and say that we can't find the documents or whatever, and the judges just sign off on it. He cites a very interesting example, which was Donald Trump. One of his excellent acts was in 2017. He cut off funding for Obama's program of shipping weapons to Al Qaeda in Syria. And then he wrote a tweet about this. And then some journalists decided to file a Freedom of Information Act for the CIA. We want to know a little bit more about this program. And the CIA said, well, we can't really confirm or deny whether such a program exists. So we can't really either provide the documents or deny that we have the documents, because you see, that way we would acknowledge that this program existed. And surprisingly enough, the judges said, okay, sounds good to us. No need to provide any documentation. And that was that. And so we really don't know something that we should know, that the US government has been shipping arms into the worst people in the world and have wrought misery to millions.
Well, we do know it through WikiLeaks, through Hillary Clinton.
We know from WikiLeaks and other sources, but we kind of would like to know officially. Anyway, Peter.
But that just shows again the value of WikiLeaks, because we can't get our government to tell us the truth about what they're doing in our name and using our money. Okay, I think there's a third aspect to it. He talks about the overclassification of just about everything now. Everything is classified. See, one of the things we've had this, and it goes all the way back to Eisenhower and the military-industrial complex, and that was a warning. But we don't need any more warnings. We have empirical evidence. And the point of his article that I found most disturbing, which you did also, is that the judiciary branch is just going to go along with this. And so we have the machinations of the waning days of the Obama administration going into the early days of Donald Trump's administration. We all know this. We can cross reference all of this thing here.
Right.
It would be nice if a judge could codify it for us, but we don't need that. We know this. This is empirically true. And we know this through congressional testimonies that were kept from us for months on end. Okay.
Yes.
When all it did was confirm what we believe. All it did was add some layers to it here. But what's so disturbing is that there seems to be no way back, because if the courts are not going to be on the side of transparency. I was going to say truth, but transparency, okay, of what the government is doing. And this goes all the way back to Madison saying, you know, the government has to be held accountable and transparent to the people, or this experiment isn't going to work, okay?
No.
And so what it is that, you know, he mentions in the article specifically James Comey on the same day that he signed a FISA warrant. He's telling the CIA, you know, it doesn't have any, we can't verify it on the same day, okay?
Right.
There's no accountability for that.
Right.
And so what I really worry about, I've always worried about these agencies. They have a long, dreadful past, both of these agencies. I don't know why people keep, you know, the 99% are good. No, the whole thing needs to be thrown out, both of them, and started from scratch. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I don't believe that at all. Okay, and what we've learned, I think what we've learned from all of this is just the level of politicization of these agencies. I mean, we've always suspected it. Okay, I mean, look at Hunter Biden. Is that the end of that story? The Washington Post, the New York Post story? Is that the alpha and omega of the whole thing? Because it certainly wouldn't have been the case with Trump, because Trump didn't do anything, and they went on for years and years out of a hoax. Okay, so what happens when there is real evidence, physical evidence of possible wrongdoing?
But that's the thing. In fact, we had that case. They had him dead to rights. We had this Kevin Kleinsmith forged governmental documents in order to get that FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page. They had him dead to rights. I mean, you caught him red-handed. You know, there's no speculation here. You know, no circumstantial evidence. And what happens? He gets a tap on the wrist. No jail time whatsoever.
Probation.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. So really, we're in a position that there's almost nothing you can do. I mean, here is a president who at least tries to get his hands around these agencies, and they don't really, you know, it doesn't do any good. They either just simply refuse to go along with his requests, or they work against him. In this case, you had Comey and McCabe, who were directly investigating the president for collusion with the Kremlin. There was no basis for it, but they decided, well, we're going to go ahead and do this. And so, you know, what happens is that, and then when that failed, they decided, well, we'll try and get Trump in another way. You know, we'll come up with this whole impeachment nonsense. And so then we had Ukraine Gate. So it's now almost like, you know, you have a president who, short of dissolving the FBI and the CIA, because nothing he can do about it. I mean, he can just tell them, hey, I want to see the documents on this, this, and this. I want you to declassify, and they're not going to do it. I mean, they just simply...
How many times did we hear declassified? How many times did we hear? I mean, the biggest one was September, October of 2018.
Right.
I think, yes, it was.
Yes.
And, you know, and we all waited for Godot. Okay.
That's right.
I mean, and then we had James Jeffries in Syria, proudly telling the world how he lied to the chief executive of the United States.
Right, proudly, and exactly
about the number of troops in Syria.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So we just misled him. You know, we told him that, you know, there were, you know, I think you said under 200 U.S. servicemen in Syria. Actually, it was about 1,000. Who knows that, mate? You know, maybe 2,000. I mean, we just kept it away. I mean, the guy who was elected as chief executive to oversee all of this, well, we just took it upon ourselves to lie about it.
You know, but it seems our critics will say is because Trump was such an anomaly and he was such a danger. No, that's not the point here. Because if you know, then why should we just have elections? What's the point of having them?
Right. Let's do away with it.
I mean, but what the point is, we're not making it in Trump's defense, not per se. We're making it in defense of a separation of powers and transparency of government, because now it'll be an article of faith that these people can just do what they want to do. Okay, and and actually enact policies that may or may not be in the interest of the country. It may be in the interest of these agencies, or maybe certain careers,
Right.
or padding your budget, your black budget.
Right. And in fact, I mean, we have just in the recent past, you remember them when the New York Times reported that Gina Haspel, the CIA head, had told Trump after the Skripal case that there were all these ducks who were poisoned. All these ducks dropped dead because of this poison, and that triggered Trump into expelling 60 diplomats, which he didn't really want to do. But he was so upset about these dead ducks that now Haspel lied. If that story is true, and I haven't seen that story denied, the CIA has not denied that story. So that is a kind of shocking. You mean the CIA lies to the president in order to get the policy that it wants? Who elected the CIA to anything? Who elected Gina Haspel to anything?
I mean,
and again, we haven't got to the bottom of this. She retained her position all the way through to the end of the administration.
Well, don't you think, George, that Western intelligence agencies know exactly what happened in Douma, Syria? No, but they let the president believe it was a chemical attack by the Assad government, okay? Okay. The bounty story in Afghanistan, that still people are still talking about it. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, and there isn't a forceful pushback against it. I haven't seen any reports to that. In fact, we're still investigating it. Instead of saying, "Come on, this is dumb." No, forget it. You're barking up the wrong tree here. No, they allow misinformation or stilted, blurry hearsay to fester and live on.
Right.
And this is what these agencies are doing. You can dislike Trump all you want, and that's okay with me. But you're talking about the highest elected office in the land that has no control over these people.
Right.
And that is the precedent that's being set right now. By all accounts, Joe's not going to push back on anything.
Not at all. I mean, he's entirely their creature. I mean, they're all absolutely delighted to have him there. And then they've got this establishment guy, William Burns, who's the new CIA chief. He's been there. He served the Bush administration. He served the Obama administration. If ever there's a safe pair of hands who will just do whatever these people want, he is that person. But this obduracy on the part of the CIA and the FBI, this goes back decades. I mean, you had Nixon went to the CIA, said, I need to find out information about
He literally went to the CIA. He literally
give me about the Bay of Pigs, about the assassination of South Vietnamese President Ngo Dinh Diem. Nothing. They just refused to give it to him. I mean, that was that. They just made that decision, and that's it. And they also sought to sabotage and destroy a president who in any way messed around with their prerogatives. So,
well, I mean, at least in the CIA's defense, during the Nixon time, Nixon wanted to sick the CIA on his political opponents, and because the establishment then hated Richard Nixon.
No. I don't agree with that. I don't.
They didn't though. They didn't, did they?
Well, this was look. If you look at these CIA people who were involved in the Watergate burglary, they had nothing to do with Nixon. They hated Nixon.
No,
so the question then was, I mean, that's still a part of a mystery as to why.
I'm agreeing with you. Okay, they weren't going to do anything to help Nixon at all. No, they weren't. Okay. But I mean, because he wanted to, say it was some kind of CIA ops, and the CIA said we had nothing to do with it. They weren't going to come and bail Nixon out. Okay,
right. Yeah, but I don't think because I think that if one thinks about the actual break-in, and we talked about this before, I mean, he had nothing to do with that. I mean, as we, you've yourself said, and I agree with you, Watergate issue was the cover-up. I mean, that's what really that is what it's really about. The break-in itself remains a mystery. Kind of no one's ever figured out.
It happens during every election, something of that magnitude.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. But yeah, I mean, so let's if we say, oh well, Trump appointed the wrong people. Okay, let's say he had done the brave thing and said, I'm going to appoint a libertarian. I'm going to appoint Rand Paul. Or let's say I'm going to appoint James Bovard. James Bovard, you are now the new head of the CIA. He's not going to get anything done. I mean, Bovard can say, I want to see all these documents. Tough.
What documents?
Yeah, exactly. What documents?
No, I think maybe somebody like McGregor might have been, could have been effective because he knows how it works. Okay, I mean, if you put a complete outsider there, they're just going to be, they won't understand where the environment that they're in. But if you get someone like McGregor that knows how the place works, or the reason why they got rid of Flynn, because he knew how things work. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, that's exactly, that's a very good point. Why they targeted Flynn, and again, an amazing abuse of power. And again, and instead of the courts taking the side of somebody who was the victim of abuse of governmental powers, the courts turned on Flynn and mired him in this horrific, nightmarish litigation that he only got out of only through a presidential pardon.
We learned through Aaron Mate in his interview of Rick Gates, something that was new for both of us, is that Flynn had told Gates that the intelligence briefings that Trump is getting when he was president-elect, he said there's something wrong with them. That's not a presidential briefing. See, this is what the Comeys were worried about, the McCabe's and the Strucks, is that this guy knows how it works.
So that's a very good point. That was a kind of an eye-opening, because in other words, Flynn said, A, this is not a proper briefing, and that they're up to something. In other words, when he was right, they're up to something. They're spying on us. They're not providing us with intelligence. They're actually trying to extract intelligence from us for, what end, which is, fighting the Obama administration.
What all I can say is that, if for those people that, are still gleeful that Trump is gone, he's quote unquote in exile and all that, look at the damage. And I said this from the very beginning, all of the institutional damage and the damage to confidence and belief people have in the system. It was pretty dodgy before then. Now it has been smashed. And, and we can bring it all the way up to January 6th, where a small group of people are and they become crazed because of the media environment and all of the lies and the lack of transparency. It's going to drive some people crazy. Right. The good thing is that they weren't, they didn't kill anyone. The police killed someone. Okay.
Right. No, I think that's right. And I think that, you could see how the judicial authorities handle different cases. So in one case, they have a CIA person, I think it was a DOJ. He was working in the DOJ, forging a document. He's forging a document in order to get a FISA warrant. And a FISA warrant means to spy on an American citizen, something you're not.
And everyone that American knows.
That's right, exactly, and that's what it is. Boom, boom, boom. You got every. They're onto the the two hop thing that you now know about all of his communication with everyone else. So that he gets a tap on the wrist. You put your feet up on the speaker's desk, you're looking at 20 years. Yeah. That's why people go a bit crazy. I mean, I say the injustice of it all is so manifest. People do crazy things.
And that's why we go full circle, because if there's going to be selective justice, is it 200 or like 400 people?
I think it's around 400 by now.
Caught up in this.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to see. I just wonder if there'll be a show trial of all of them, and not separate trials, but all of them. It would be a spectacle, and something, of course, the liberal media and the deep state would really love, because it's basically saying, it could be you next time. Okay, that's what they want to do. That's right. That's what they want to do. So, I mean, again, doing all these things to get rid of Donald Trump, for some people it's justified, but the damage that you leave behind, and it legitimizes very bad behavior on the part of these people in very powerful positions that we know most Americans have no idea who they are.
That's right. That's right. I mean, here we have Comey. Now, what do we already know about Comey? We know Comey lied to the FISA court. He misled them directly about a key piece of information about that the Steele dossier. We also know that the other ingredient of Russiagate, which was the Russian hack of the DNC server, we know Comey said, when he asked, can we actually examine the server. Nah, I don't think so. No, okay. But we can provide you with a report. Okay. Actually, we can provide you with a summary of the report. We can't provide you with the full report. No, okay, fine. So that's Comey. That's the guy who was the director of the FBI, one of the most important positions in the country. I mean, the abuse of power and the terrible consequences for the whole world. I mean, the Russiagate, we're still living with Russiagate. I mean, it's
And we will.
yeah, yeah.
And we will. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've never worked at the FBI, but if there is a presumably, if there's an alleged national security threat, why would the FBI say, "Oh, okay, you do your in-house stuff, fine"? I don't understand that. I don't. You know, there was that NASDAQ driver,
Right.
you know, that said that, you know, claimed that there was a noose in his garage, and they sent 20 FBI agents down there.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Barbara Watson. Even though anyone with common sense would have known that, yeah, this story makes absolutely no sense. You know, no one has access to these garages other than the drivers, which means there would have to have been an inside job by some other driver. I don't believe it for a moment.
Yeah.
It turned out it was just simply a garage door handle.
Well, you know, you're so absolutely right about the security of those garages. Those are multi-million-dollar cars. There's no one. It's like Fort Knox. No one gets in there if you're not allowed.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, but see, I that story. I mean, I'm not a NASDAQ guy at all, but I mean, you know, you have this Smollett story, you know, and then you know, it's just brushed away. There's no due process. There are people in the Capitol that did things wrong, and I think those people should be punished. But should be proportionality. I mean, look at the summer, how many places were burned down? Federal buildings, courthouses.
Right.
Where are the prosecutions there?
That's right.
I don't think there are any.
No,
Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
No, none at all. And the media, of course, going on clapping and saying, yeah, well, of course, there's nothing more serious than putting your feet up on the speaker's desk. Now, that's serious. I think it was Joe Scarborough said, well, burning down the pizzeria, well, you know, that's very minor. But invading the Capitol, whoa, you know, the extraordinary sort of entitlement, you know, well, you know, we are important people. A crime, an insult to us, that matters. You burn down a family pizzeria, probably the family couldn't even afford the insurance. Hey, them's the breaks. But don't you dare, you know, put your feet up on
the people in the elite let the masks slip every once.
Right.
So, what is it? Anderson Cooper, you know,
Right.
in saying in like what Holiday Inns and stuff. Like,
Exactly.
there's nothing wrong with the Holiday Inn. Okay.
They went to a Holiday Inn. You mean not at the Ritz-Carlton where I normally stay?
That's right. Where I have oysters for breakfast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this James Bovard, I think everyone should keep an eye on him. He's really one of our favorite writers. He never wastes your time, and he never wastes words.
That's right. No, I think he's an outstanding writer, and we will, of course, provide a link to his article. Remember, we are on Rumble, so look us up there, and we will be back. So if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.